Welcome back to Arkansas First Reports, where truth meets tenacity and people still rule. I'm your host, Kandi Cox, and today we're bringing you a powerful episode with a big announcement, one that could change the political landscape right here in Saline County and beyond in our state. Our guest today is no stranger to conservative grassroots. Aaron Hansen is a 22-year veteran of the autobody industry, but more importantly, he is a bold voice who stepped out of the shadows of complacency into the light of civic leadership. Aaron began his advocacy journey in 2015, serving on the board of a national hunting organization. When that group drifted left, Aaron did what real conservatives do. He took a stand, he stepped away, and he chose principle over position. That fire led him to a political organizing, campaign managing, and eventually to Arkansas, where he didn't escape tyranny, not to escape tyranny, but to fight it head on. And today, he's here to make an official announcement. Aaron Hansen is running for state representative of Arkansas's 81st District on the Republican ticket, challenging incumbent R.J. Hawk. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So we made a live yesterday, Thursday, to announce your candidacy, and I know that this evening you are also going on. Thursday you're going on Saline Hardliners.
Yep.
This podcast will air on Friday. So by that time, a couple announcements will be out there. People will know. But I want to do a deep dive into why you're running. So let's just jump in. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Not to repeat the entire segment from the last podcast, but to just kind of condense it.
Yes.
I moved here from Washington State.
Yes.
With basically one goal was to never live under Democrat policies again and to get away from rhinos. I've seen what happens over 26 years when you let Democrats run everything and the Republicans have no spine to stand up for what's going on. They just kind of go along to get along.
Right.
And I moved to Arkansas because I wanted hunting, fishing, trees, mountains, lakes, that kind of thing. But also I wanted the trifecta of, conservative on the House, the Senate, and the governorship.
Right.
Then I get here and I find out that is not the case at all. And my state rep, the first year I moved here was they opened up the district, or they created it due to redistricting, and he became my representative. So I did what I always do. I called him, I got a phone, and I asked him a bunch of questions. My very first question, what the hell's going on with this personal property tax? My truck's been paid off for years out of state. Now I can't even register my kid in school because I have to rent my vehicle that's paid off from the state. What's going on with that? And he gave me a bunch of canned responses that he's probably practiced before. And over the course of these 2.5, 3 years that he's been in there, his voting record has gotten worse. And then finally, I just started calling him out publicly on Facebook. And he essentially told me, it's not my job. And that's when I started sharing, yes, it is. The state constitution is that. And well, show me where it says that the state assesses value. I get that, but the power is given to them by the state. Mm-hmm. And then he says, well, 20 bills already died in committee. So what's the point? The point is to fight, darn it, fight, do something. I mean,
Right.
Can you imagine if you're living paycheck to paycheck and then you got to go rent your vehicle or your property from the state every year just so you can make it to work? That's not right. Mm-hmm. Now, you get that's the way it's always been. Well, why? Nobody said anything? Well, I was born, and that's how it was when I was born. And so coming out of state, seeing other funding mechanisms that Washington used, because when I moved here, I knew about the state income tax, but never in my wildest dream would I have ever thought that there was a personal property tax. It never even occurred to me that somebody would do that.
Right.
So it just... right then, it set me off. Like, this is not right. So coming from there and not being here the less way it's been all my life, I've never had to do this in my life.
Right.
So there's other ways of doing things. We could kick people off of state assistance that are able to work. With the technology we have now and the companies willing to make what's the word I'm looking for? Adjustments, or help you get the job. Whatever. I've seen one-legged truckers. Mm-hmm. And you're telling me just because you're overweight or got a bad back, you can't go get a job? Make them work. Right. Let's promote work, not dependency. Okay, well, there's some income making people go get a job. Every tax cut in history has led to more tax revenue. Mm-hmm. So don't tell me that we can't do it because it's going to take away taxes. Go all the way back to the Reagan tax cuts. Mm-hmm. We've had the biggest revenue increase in history. And then under the Trump tax cut, same thing. So don't tell me that it can't be done. We just need to start trying, wrap our head around a few different ideas. We're giving athletes state income tax-free income. Why are they more special than you and I? That doesn't make sense to me. We're going to give corporations tax benefits. That's wonderful. We bring in business, but we're still getting screwed on the little guy. And you're going to go right along with that? That's absolutely, it's absolutely wrong. Somebody that's paid property tax not property tax, but paid taxes all their life. Like, mm-hmm. In a minute, I'd like to read a message that I received from somebody that it brought tears to my eyes. People worried about losing something that they've paid off. They've been paying taxes for all their life, and we're just going to abandon them for what? I can't just sit by and just not do something. Right. I have my page that I started specifically to go after RJ Hawk, Tax Arkansas Responsibly. Now, you get the people that say all taxation is theft. Wrong. If we get rid of taxes, we get rid of government, we get rid of the judicial system, we get rid of the cops, we get rid of fixing roads. We have to come up with an agreement that says, okay, I'm willing to pay this much for the bare minimum. I don't want bloated government, and I want a fair and just judicial system, just like everybody should. So what is the number, like the Laffer curve? Anybody familiar with the Laffer curve? All it is an arch. At a certain point, people start hiding their money. Now, if you only pay $1,000 in taxes, but your accountant bill is $1,200, you're just going to pay the taxes. Mm-hmm. But if you're paying $3,000 in taxes, you're going to pay that $1,200 accountant to hide all your tax money, or to, get rid, right. Find deductions and things like that to zero it out. Right. And that's what's happening. The little guy is getting hammered with the taxes. The guy that can afford the big accountant's getting away with it, or he's moving his money. He might have, I'll just get a little residence over here in this state. Rich people can do that. And I got nothing against rich people. I'm just here to fight for the little guy like me. I mean, so far this year, with my state, local, or federal, I'm almost $15,000 in taxes just so far this year. I'm not even halfway done with it. So it fires me up to the point where, all right, the little guy's getting screwed. Rich people can do what they need to do with their money, and I'm all about getting rich. I'd love to get there someday. But they can handle it. Now, can you imagine living paycheck to paycheck? And you're struggling, all right, now I got to pay my property tax. Or I'm on disability, I'm a retired, disabled vet, or retired person, and then I'm on a fixed income. And then you're getting hammered. Okay, so I bought a 30-year mortgage on a fixed rate. Does this mean it's fixed forever? It goes up every year with the property tax. Wow. So you budget for something and you plan on that for 30 years. But as soon as you sign the paperwork, the plan goes out the window because your property tax is going to skyrocket.
Well, we're gonna deep dive into some of those things that are under the Republican platform, such as taxes. But what I would like to ask you is, right now, what is it? And I'm seeing the passion on the taxes. You stepping up to run for District 81 here in the state of Arkansas. Is that what has fueled this fire?
That was a lot of it. But when I moved here, I thought it was a great conservative state. And for the most part, from where I came from, it is. Right. But it cost me the same amount. And I mean, we have constitutional carry here, things like that. So I don't think that's going out the window. Our abortion here it's banned. That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. So I can't really like go after that because we've already handled that. Mm-hmm. There's certain things that here and there that I would like to, take care of or fight for or claw back some of the freedoms, the petition for one. Right. No citizen should have to worry if the Secretary of State is going to approve his petition or not because it's not worded how he wants it at an 8th grade level or whatever. That's not right either. So what I'm finding is the citizen's voice in this state is slowly being clawed away. I can't go create a petition anymore. So we need to bring back the citizens' right to go after their government, stay engaged. And I've seen other things, other people complaining that our petition's been denied 3 times. Well, they changed the law, so now that they're allowed to just deny it. It's supposed to be for the people, of buying for the people.
Right. So Arkansas state motto is Regnant Populus, and which means the people rule.
And I'm not seeing it that way right now. And as I look at some of they wanted to get rid of the FOIA requests. And I went and I spoke on that one. And it's things like that. And then what I also noticed when I was in there is the arrogance of some of these politicians. When you're asking them questions, they're twirling their chairs, they're looking at you, giving you snide remarks. And it's like, how dare you make me do what I get paid to do? We elected you to do a job, and I expect you to do what we sent you there to do. So as far as like fighting for certain freedoms, like say gun rights, abortion, things like that have already been kind of handled. And I'm all about making sure they stay strong. Absolutely. But a lot of it is the taxes for me. Now, I know it might be controversial, but I'm more conservative than I am Republican. Republican to me is kind of a weak-kneed jellyfish that just kind of goes along to get along. They don't really do anything when they get there. I'm a solid conservative when it comes to that. I've got the backbone to fight for this because all my life being in a shop, my feelings that you're not going to offend me, and I'm not worried about offending you.
Right. We often see those that run for these seats. They make a grassroots effort and they run and they get in there, and they kind of have this buddy system thing where they pair you with someone to kind of teach you the ropes. How do you feel like you would stand to the pressure of being taught the ropes as to how things are done around here?
Well, I would probably immediately tell them, you can show me where to go and you can tell me what time I need to be there, but I can think for myself, and I know exactly why I was sent here. I wasn't sent here to be your friend. I don't care about being your friend. I don't care about big donor money. In fact, I don't want any. I'm not taking a salary for this. Every bit of what I get is donated because I want my full intention. I do not benefit from this one bit unless the entire state of Arkansas benefits. I don't want nothing. I'm essentially there to throw a grenade into the politics of Arkansas.
Right. So one of the things that I've heard is that you have to, work within the system to be able to get any of your bills heard. So tell me what your thoughts are on that.
You can work within the system, but it doesn't mean you have to buckle to it. You can follow the procedures, get yourself there. And from what I see, there's a couple in there that are going to, be on your side. That'll kind of help you. But if you shoot for 100% and you wind up with 75%, we're still better off than we were. But one thing I want to do, and I will absolutely do, is I will call out the other politicians and say, hey, constituents over here, your politician is knocking down this bill and won't let it come through. You might want to give them a call because this bill is for you and they're knocking it down. So you might want to give them a call and let them know their job's on the line if they don't help push this through. It takes the people. Like, and what's the old adage? A phone call is worth 10 votes. A handwritten letter is worth, 100 or 1,000? And so you got to get engaged. If you just sit there, they're going to take advantage of you every time.
How do you plan to be engaged with your district and your constituents?
For one, I will encourage them to be at the Capitol constantly, as much as you can. If we're in session, I would like you there. I want your cameras rolling. And then the other one is live streams minimum once a week, questions and answers. My phone is always open. Call me, text me. I still have a day job and I will still have my day job. That's the only way I'll be able to donate my salary. But I'm not a politician. I've been working on cars. That's what I am. I'm an autobody guy.
Right.
With a passion for advocacy and good conservative values. And I will never forget that. My dad runs his own business. My brother's still banging on metal. All my buddies are. That's not anything I'm ever going to forget. My stepdad's been doing it 40 years. You don't just wash that out because you went in to the state capitol. I want 3 terms and I want to be done. I want to get back to my life.
Right.
Now, if Arkansas is kind enough to ask me to do it again or go somewhere else, that's one thing. But my full intention, 3 terms and done, because I don't want to lose sight of where I came from. I don't want to get in with the crowd. That's not it. I've never been worried about the crowd.
Right.
This is strictly for Arkansans, 100%. I'm not trying to get anything. In fact, my life is going to get way harder, and I'm going to lose a considerable amount of money the first 4 months of the year. So I wouldn't worry about me selling out to the establishment. I don't want their money. I don't want their donations. I don't want their handshakes. What I do care about is the constituents, the people. I will be anywhere. You want me at an event? I'll come to your kid's birthday party. I don't care. You invite me, I will be there, because I don't ever want to lose sight of where I came from. I've got the scars on the knuckles to prove it, and it's where I aim to go back to. That's it, and that's important to me.
What is your view on term limits?
So I'm 50-50 to tell you the truth. In the Federalist Papers, it was, I'm going to get hammered if I get it wrong, but I thought it was Madison that argued that a well-informed populace was supposed to be the term limit. Now, let's say I go in there and everybody just loves it and they want me to keep fighting for them because I'm the best one they've had, let's just say. All right, I'm termed out. Sorry, guys. Now you got to pick somebody else. That's where I get lost on it. I'm all for it when you have some squish in there that just goes in there, Mitch McConnell. I wish he'd been turned out years ago. But when you get good, solid ones in there, it's hard to watch them go because the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And so I would rather see a well-informed populace vote out the candidate. But if someone says, hey, we're going term limits, okay, count me in. I'm not opposed to them at all. Like I said, I would want 3 terms and I want to go back to my life.
What do you think about, I'm just going to throw this out there, but about when you're, serving and taking someone that you see coming up within the political atmosphere within your district and mentoring them so that they're ready to run and take that position?
That was my initial thought too in the beginning, because like I say, I only want 3 terms. But I also don't want to let my district down. If they finally get a good solid fighter in there and they're proud of me, help us pick the next guy. Let's get him in there. Show them that it's okay to fight. You're going to get called names and nasty things, and you're going to have a little laughy face on your posts, and they're going to try to hurt your feelings and go after your family and stuff sometimes. But you got to have the thick skin. You might as well get into it now and get ready for it. And I 100% agree with that. Bring them up, show them the ropes, kind of get them in there, get their name out there. So when you're ready to step down, that void is already ready to be filled with somebody that's solid that you trust.
Right. I didn't, come into politics because it was a passion that I wanted to do. My passion is helping to save babies' lives and helping moms and to be the best moms that they can be and build families. But I find myself here because of the where we find ourselves as a nation and as a state. And I just got to the point where I could no longer sit aside and remain silent. What got you impassioned?
So I was on the board of that hunting organization.
Right.
Then the election night happened, 2016. And I'm sitting there first thing in the morning, watching TV like everybody else. Or it was that evening, whatever it was. And I'm sitting there. And at the beginning of the night, I'm just a regular American. By the end of the night, I'm a white, uneducated, racist piece of garbage. And it flipped a switch in my brain. Like, there's more to this. People don't just do that because they don't have something to hide or there's no agenda. So what it did is it took me down at least a 4-year scholarship of my own, and I went and I read every book I could on the founders. I studied everything I could. What is going on? I never wanted to be blindsided again, and I never wanted that to happen. I wanted to take people that were sitting on the sidelines like me and wake them up, and because that's what had happened to me. Is I just kind of woke up. I was passionate about hunting. I love elk hunting, chasing through the mountains and backpacking. That was my thing. But that night, it changed my entire life. It honestly, it did. Because I went to bed that night and I couldn't believe all the things they were calling the Trump voters. And it like I said, 4 years, I devoured every book I could read or get on Audible at work. I found Dan Bongino, he was like the renegade Republican before he was in the Dan Bongino show. Like I remember his big announcement being he had a YouTube channel, and then Mark Levin. I didn't realize I was reading Mark Levin's books before I found his radio show. And then the conservative path just kind of grew and grew and grew. And then as other candidates were gearing up for 2020, I said, if you get my vote, I'm going to talk to you first. So that is when I started setting up events. And it just became, I took a month off work and I traveled the entire state of Washington setting up events for the candidate. And it was the most fun I'd ever had. I mean, I spent hours and hours and hours talking to constituents all over the state. And it just became, from then it snowballed into this passion to where I think this is what I'm supposed to do kind of thing. And that everybody I talk to at work or that knows me, don't get him started because he's going to go. And I get passionate and I get feisty and it just became something I feel like I'm supposed to do. And if you've listened to a week's worth of Mark Levin and somebody calls him, you know what you should do, Mark? And then what does he say? What I should do? I got a TV show. I can do my books. I do my radio show. How about what are you doing? Yeah, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. And that is where it fired me up. I have to do something. When I meet my maker, he says, what did you do to protect freedom in the country that I gave you? Everything I could, sir. Everything I could. And it's still not enough. Mm-hmm. That's honestly what drives me, is I don't want to have one regret when I go and I meet the Lord and he says, well, what did you do? What did you do to help fight for babies? What did you do for life? Everything I could. I sacrificed a lot. I gave up a lot of money to do it. I put my face out there. I took the slings and arrows. What are you doing? It takes more than a Facebook post. Those help.
Right.
But it takes more than that.
Right. We really do need to be engaged and let our voices be heard. I think that we've gotten so complacent and thinking that, well, it's someone else's job. And I say that oftentimes we find ourselves in the way that we are in our country, much because the Christians have remained silent and sitting on the sidelines, thinking it's someone else's job and that we don't need to let our voices be heard so strongly. I know you shared with me this morning when we were getting ready to do our live that one of the things that you received a letter from a constituent and you were telling me that you shared with your wife, this is why I'm running. And so would you like to take the opportunity to share that?
Absolutely, because I promised this gentleman, he did give me permission. His name, and he actually told me I could use his name, Bill Safley. And it put tears in my eyes as I was trying to read it. And I received so many of these kinds of letters of people just getting forgotten and left behind and hammered by their government.
Right.
And so, yeah, I appreciate that. And I promised him, I will take this as far as I can. And so that I'm going to make good on that promise. But this is what he says. I started paying taxes when I was 12 years old. I'm 63 now. I was forced to retire at 57 years old because my body was worn out, neck surgery, shoulder, 2 widowmaker heart attacks. I fought 3 years of my Social Security disability. I had a long-term and short-term disability insurance that I got through my employer. I was able to barely survive off that. When I retired, I was making $80,000 a year. The long-term disability people took my whole settlement, $55,000 from Social Security. I had to pay taxes on the money they took, plus my Social Security. I owe the IRS over $10,000 now. I make the payments and can't pay it off due to the interest and penalties. Social Security paid my Medicare insurance for about 6 months. Then illegal immigrants came to our country. They started holding $170 a month out of my Social Security check. I think in my whole life of working and raising a family, I got money back 2 times in my life from the IRS. I was hoping they would do away with the taxes on Social Security and maybe get a break for my so-called golden years that I worked so hard for. Now I'm being taxed for everything I had already paid taxes on. It never ends. I was a productive member of society from a very young age. Now that I depend on our government to pay me for my money, I contributed my whole life. They tax me more and it's hard to survive. Some of my medications are ridiculous. What I have to pay out of pocket. My mom and dad both died before they got to draw Social Security checks. So where do we go from here? Where did all of our money go that we paid in? I just saw that they took the no taxes on Social Security out of the big, beautiful bill. After seeing all of our tax money being stolen by corrupt politicians, why can't they be held accountable and have a reimbursement or have to reimburse us, the hardworking middle class? That has carried this country for years. I just hope I live long enough to see our elderly and veterans that give it their all to get shunned by our government. And him and I had some other private messages. And he says he can't really afford his groceries. He has to hunt, fish, and garden to afford his groceries. And it breaks my heart. I think my grandparents are gone. I don't have any grandparents. And what if that was my grandpa?
Right.
Or my mom or my dad. My dad's almost 65 when he's still working away, trying to keep his business going. My mom and stepdad are going to be 62 this year, worried about retirement. They're looking to move to Tennessee because of the no taxes or property tax after 65. So stuff like that just fires me up more. But it did. I looked at my wife and I had tears in my eyes. That's why. That's why I'm going to run. That's why somebody has to do something.
Right.
And getting multiple of those. If you don't feel something, then, I mean, you're not human. And to have our representatives, and he said he's been talking to one of his representatives who's a good friend, but it seems to always fall on deaf ears. Now, if you're just worried about a dying in committee, that's your only reason, bring it up every day if you have to. Call it, put out a mass message to your constituent. People, if they knew that's what you were fighting for, we would be there. The crowd, if you said, look, I need you at the Capitol. I want to abolish property tax for anybody over 65. Help me fight this fight. I can't imagine the amount of people that would show up.
Oh, I think property tax should be abolished. I don't see the board. I mean, just for people over 65. You have young families. They've bought their vehicle. They've paid the tax on their vehicle. Why should they continue to pay property tax on that vehicle every year? And I know that you're focused on 65, but I just want to say that I think it should be abolished across the board.
That's what I would ultimately push for. But it goes back to the try for 100% and hit 75. Because if we can get it at 65, people get used to that. Okay, now let's abolish it completely. But I would 100% try to get rid of it altogether. I don't want to pay it. I don't want to pay as much as I can. I'm all about everybody pays equally. We figure out the bare minimum that we can on flat tax and just get rid of everything. Because you get those people that are like, all taxes are theft. And I agree to a point. But at a certain point, I'm willing to pay for roads. I'm willing to pay for, my kid to go to school or somebody's kid to go to school. People are homeschooled or maybe have the option. If you send your kids to school, maybe then there should be a special tax for that. You're choosing to take that. We just need to rethink what we're doing here and how we can come up with the alternative forms of income. Because certain things do need to be paid for.
Or taxed to death.
Oh, absolutely.
Or taxed to death. And it needs a complete
an
bulldozed overhaul. That's right. So you've been on the ground for several years now with previous campaign work in Washington State, launching your Tax Arkansas Responsibly. Can you share what your Tax Arkansas Responsibly, and I know that you've hit on it quite a bit this morning already, how that plays into your legislative vision?
I guess my legislative vision would be to go in there, and I'll just shake it up, but bring up a lot of questions nobody wants to ask because they're worried about something. And a lot of what I'm going to do is take the input from my constituents. That's the whole idea of the job. If there's something you're worried about, let's get it out there. But as far as Tax Arkansas Responsibly, it was directly because of RJ Hawk saying, that's not my job. And so a lot of that is, this is where I stand on certain things. If I can abolish any tax I can, that's great. And that's what I fight for. But we have to have, the more money you keep, the more money you're going to spend. So essentially there's going to be revenue coming in.
Right.
But we just have to figure out what the minimum is we can pay. I'm all about cutting government. I want an absolute Doge style commission here to just knock out. If your secretary has a secretary, gone, fired. There's none of this. The government should not be a retirement job. It shouldn't be. I am fiercely protective of taxpayer dollars. I don't want to pay for somebody to just sit there and do a redundant job. How many times have we driven by and seen 4 county workers and one of them's working, or a state employee or a state project? How about state projects have to be forced to run on time and on budget? You know, there's certain things we can do. We have to force government to be efficient. It's like where good ideas go to die. They go to government. And that needs to stop. It's got to stop like yesterday. Things have to be cut in the government. It's completely bloated. No, like I say, I'm not an anarchist. I'm not some crazy libertarian that believes get rid of all government, all taxes, all that. I believe an absolute minimal is possible while getting what we need to get out of it.
Right.
I don't believe in welfare. I think that should have been left up to the churches. I believe if I want to help my neighbors, I'm going to help my neighbors. I give to charity. I give a lot to charity. But that doesn't matter. It's not because, oh, that's what you're supposed to. It's because it's what makes me feel good. And so we have to cut unnecessary things. Doesn't matter if it's, all right, look at who's getting our contracts. Are they just in the buddy system and they're overbidding us? No, we have to look at that stuff. Get those, some side, and I don't want it to be a government entity. I want it to be a complete outsider that has absolutely no partisanship, goes in there and goes, what the hell's all this? This is a waste. Absolutely get rid of it. Save the taxpayer money.
Well, our welfare system is a broken system, and I do believe that there needs to be a system that helps those that need a helping hand at some point in their life. But it's such a broken system. It's an all or nothing. You either take it all or you get nothing. So I'd really like to see where you take steps and like towards working, school, things like that, where it starts reducing the welfare to where you can come off of it. Because in the field of work that I do, I see where people get stuck in it because the moment that they start making anything,
they're cut.
It's cut.
And so what I would say is, okay, we have these ready work program kind of thing where you call them up, say, hey, I need work for the day. How about anybody on welfare must be on their list? And then whatever you make that day comes out of your welfare check. But the problem here is when I worked at one shop, we would have a wash kid that would quit and we would get a really good worker in there. But the stipulation is you can't hire from there. Maybe get rid of that, because if you get a solid worker in there that's coming from one of these temp services, how about we make them eligible to hire? Because they get stuck in that program too. Like, this is our business.
Right.
Because the temp service pays them, not the employer.
Right.
And they get paid every day from that. They go home with money. Okay, now, all right. If you're on welfare or any kind of assistance, you have to be on one of these, and we'll make it disability, appropriate, or hey, customer service jobs, work from home jobs, all these new things that we can do. That has to be implemented into the welfare program.
Right.
It has to, because I'm not okay with just because you're overweight, I got to pay you to sit at home. That's not fair. I bust my butt for my dollars. So a lot of things need to be looked at individually, and we have to promote work. Get off the couch, go to work. There's dignity in work. Yes. It makes you feel good. When you're providing and you have that purpose in life and you can start buying nicer things for you and your family, it raises your spirits. It really makes you feel good. And that's what we need. It gets off of substance abuse, things like that. Now we have purpose. If you're on one of those and you're on substance, maybe you have to take a job. But I don't know. I know you can't mingle church in there, but there's a charity that I really like that takes people out of rehab, and they must have a job and they have to go to church twice a week. And I am all about that.
Right.
People need help.
Yes.
We got to get it to them, but they can't be dependent on it.
Right. Well, let's turn our focus just a little bit and talk about platform. The Republican Party of Arkansas lays out clear principles. Doesn't mean that all of the Republicans follow those principles, correct? And so I'd love to walk through just a few of those key areas and hear where you stand on them. Let's first talk about lower taxes and economic growth, which we have been. The RPA supports lower taxes to spur growth. That's what the platform says.
What are they doing about it?
What's your tax policy vision for Arkansas?
First thing I would do is look at where all the money's going and all the things we'd spend it on. And then I would say, all right, do they align with the values? I'm not a big government spending guy. I'd love to cut it all. Government, in order for them to spend money, has to take money from us. But when I see tax dollars at the tune of like $6.8 million going to a tax-exempt university that has gender study programs without a fight from any Republican. I think there's a handful, maybe 3 or 4. That's a problem to me. Let's fight for where our tax dollars are going. But we also need, like, the whole thing. Where's it all going? Like the ins and outs, like any kind of business. Where's the ins and outs? We're taking this much in, but we're spending this much on what? Is it a bunch of garbage?
Right.
So things need to be cut. I would rather cut things all day long.
Well, how do you plan to protect working class Arkansans from overtaxation?
First, I would love to get this. I mean, they keep talking about lowering the state income tax. I would love to see that gone.
Right.
But their main question is, well, how are we going to fill the gap? Okay, well, let's look at other things. Encouraging work. Okay, now you're cutting people off of certain things. Work requirement should be mandatory for everything. If you're on any kind of government assistance, work requirement. Unless you're missing arms and legs, I expect you to be at work. So there's a lot of things we're going to have to look at. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you face that I know every answer to everything, but I can promise you that I can find out. And when we get in there and I have more access to certain things on where everything's going and we can cut certain things, we should. I would love to get rid of the tax exempt status for how much the Razorbacks make every year. And they got state, they're exempt from taxes, federal and state. Why don't I get that privilege? You know, there's a lot of things I would like. All right, if I got to pay, I want you to pay. And what does that do? It makes everybody pay less because there's more money in the pool. So that would be my first thing, is to look at where we can cut people off tax exempt that. Now, churches, nonprofits, things like that, I get it. I'm all about that. But if you are making a certain gobs of money off your name, image, and likeness, I want your tax dollars too. I don't want to pay taxes, but if I have to, you have to. So that right there puts more money in the pool. All right, now I could save the average Joe a whole lot of money. That would be my first thing to look at.
So we need to look at where those monies are going and how we can cut those taxes.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the pro-life and sanctity of life, part of that platform affirms the sanctity of life. What is your position on protecting the unborn, and what legislation would you support or sponsor to defend life?
I'm all about, what was it, the trigger law, where it's illegal in Arkansas to have an abortion. And I love that. I don't want anybody's baby being, it's murder. I don't want any of that.
So you support the trigger bill that will.
Oh, absolutely. And that was my wife, before we moved down here, was one thing we had talked about back in Washington, because it's pretty much an on-demand thing there. It's just a business. And it was one thing when we got here, we were happy. When that bill happened, we were both super excited about that. When Roe v. was overturned, oh, we were stoked.
Right. Well, okay, let's talk about Second Amendment rights. The right to bear arms is non-negotiable. As a legislator, how will you stand against federal overreach and preserve Arkansas' Second Amendment freedoms?
Well, I hate to admit that the only 2 people in history that banned certain kind of guns were Republicans. Reagan got rid of the machine guns, and I would love to have a nice bell-fed machine gun. Trump went after bump stocks. He's not above criticism, and I think that was wrong. What does it say? Shall not be infringed. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry.
Right.
I love having my guns, and I think more guns, less crime, just like the book. When I was a kid and I was in Michigan, one of the mechanics there would always tell everybody, I think it should be illegal to not carry a gun. You should get pulled over and have a gun check. If you don't have a gun with you, you should get a ticket. And that always stuck with me. And I was kind of like, you know what? Where do they go? They always hit the soft targets. Why aren't our teachers armed? Why? When I go in the Capitol, I walk through a metal detector with a guy with a gun. My kids don't get that. They don't deserve that. I say arm the janitors, the teachers, and everybody else. If you can pass a background check and a proficiency test, give them a gun. That's my opinion. And that's one that I'm very strong on right there.
Yeah, we hear a lot about, the leftists, they want to put, harsh restrictions on gun rights. What they are not understanding is those are people who are breaking the law, not citizens who are obeying the law.
Yeah. The Second Amendment is the most regulated of all amendments. Now you see those memes where the lady's holding up a sign, I wish women had the same rights as guns. Okay, you want to be registered? You want to have a background check? You tell me, where else were we going to stop here? Gun is the Second Amendment is the most regulated out of everything. And to me, I
Our First Amendment is close behind, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. But no, I'm all about getting rid of the restrictions. If you can, and I get it. We don't want to give guns to people that are going to harm people and things like that. You can pass a background check, by all means. Carry one.
Right. Well, let's talk about election integrity and
This one is, so why did you leave Washington? Okay. 100% mail-in ballots. Absolutely no voter integrity. In Washington, a Democrat will lose, but they'll keep counting votes till they win. I remember the Christine Gregoire, Dino Rossi election. Christine Gregoire was the Democrat. Dino won the first election. Then he won this recount. Then he won the second recount. On the third recount, we found more ballots. So I am absolutely for voter integrity. You will never win as a Republican or conservative anywhere without voter integrity. Now, RJ is absolutely against paper ballots. He told me this personally when I held an event for him and some of the other local candidates that he said he lost due to paper ballots. So I am for whatever gives the most security for a secure election. Period. I've witnessed what happens to a state. First, it goes communist. As soon as you get rid of any voter integrity, you might as well just kiss it goodbye.
Right. There's a strong voice arising in the state of Arkansas, and as you know, Trump highly supports hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots. Where do you stand on that?
Absolutely. We could probably even go farther. Put a barcode and a serial number on them. I got a serial number on every one of my dollar bills. I go rob a bank. What's the first thing I look at? Serial number. There's ways we can do it. Voter ID, absolutely, without question.
Right.
So whatever is the most secure, that's what I want, because I know what'll happen if you get rid of it.
Right. Right. What are your thoughts on closed primaries?
100%. Why would I want a Democrat picking my candidate?
Right.
That's nonsense. And I can't believe it's not that way. I know when I go to the primary, they ask me, well, are you Democrat or Republican? I say, I want a Republican ticket or a ballot. But if a Democrat can come and do that, why don't we start picking their candidates? But if I start picking their candidates, well, I'm going to lose out on voting in the primary for my candidate.
Would you believe that is one of the reasons that we find ourselves in more of a purple state than a true red state?
I believe it 100%. Yeah, because, I mean, if a Democrat knows he's never going to win, then who cares what Democrat candidate there is?
Right.
They're going to come in and vote for the squishiest Republican they can. And that's what's happening. So I would absolutely support it and fight for it. If that was something I could do at the state and we can bring closed elections or closed primaries, oh, absolutely, you bet I will.
As you know, President Trump called out our Sarah Huckabee Sanders, he about the paper ballots, and our governor says that she's working on it. I personally have not seen anywhere where she's working on it. Have you seen where she's working on it?
No, I'd like to say that don't blame me. I voted for Doc because I didn't trust her in the beginning. I really didn't. And I don't think she's working on it. I don't think she really cares, to tell you. From what I'm seeing, if you cared about an issue, you'd be on it. You'd be vocal about it. You wouldn't just give it lip service. Yes, Mr. President, oh yeah, we're working on it.
Right.
And then go back to business as usual. You would come, what does President Trump do? I want this, this, and this in my bill, and this is what I want, and I want to see it now. And then if you don't do it, he'll start threatening, I'm going to endorse a primary candidate and this and that. Where's Sarah at? If you really wanted it done with the supermajorities that we supposedly have,
right,
you would knock this out in no time.
Right. Paper ballots really would not be an issue in our state if she got behind it. It truly would be a non-issue if she got behind it. And I do believe that closed primaries are essential in our state. As you know, I don't know how much you know about what happened with the state convention this last year with the Republican Party of Arkansas, but the state convention passed closed primaries, and the RPA, the executive committee, which does not support closed primaries, decided to thwart that and not allow what the voters,
tells you everything you need to know. It tells you who they're working for. If you can't support what people voted for, In Washington, we had a Democrat governor, and we had an initiative that was for $33 car tabs. We voted it in. It became built. $33 car tabs. That was it.
Right.
Well, then the state legislator overturned it. And to his credit, he said, no, no, no. They voted for it. Give them their $33 car tabs. That's what needs to happen. If we vote for it, that's what we should get.
Okay. Well, Aaron, thank you so much. Before we go, and wrap up, I want you to tell the listeners what your campaign is about at its core and how they can help get involved.
My campaign is all about Arkansas benefiting as a whole. I don't want to benefit anything from this campaign if we all don't benefit. That's why 100% of my salaries go to charity.
Right.
I'm not trying to take a dime from the taxpayer, but my entire mission is for the state of Arkansas. It's not for me. I'm not getting anything out of this other than fighting for you. That is it. That's my whole core mission. If Arkansas does not benefit, I don't benefit. We win together. We fight together. We win together. That's it. You can go to my website, aaronforarkansas.com. All I ask is that you split your donation. Pick a charity. I have a couple up there. If you have one that you want on there, just make sure you don't endorse me or anything. Just send me the link and I'll put it on the website because I truly, deep in my heart, just want to help. That's all I want out of this, is just to help the people of Arkansas. And if I can do that, then I won. Then that's all there is to it. Even if I don't win, but I open everybody's eyes up, maybe next time.
Right.
But the whole thing is, I won't benefit if we all don't benefit. So I want it to be completely community oriented, grassroots, all the way up. I don't want big donor money. I don't want any of that. If I win, it's because you believed in me and we all win together. And when I go there, I want to bring everybody with me.
Okay. And then you also have your Facebook page, which is Aaron Hansen for State Representative.
Yes, ma'am.
And so people can follow you on Facebook and stay up to date on what you have going on. And I'm sure that you, as time goes on, you would like to visit with people personally and have some gatherings where
There's a thing on my website where you could request me to be anywhere. Like I said, I'll show up at your kid's birthday party. If you want to talk to me, if you want it, my phone is always open. If I don't get back to you, it'll be tomorrow or whenever I have time. But I swear, anybody that gets a hold of me will get a response. It's all about the people. That's it. And that one thing that drives me nuts is when I get hold of the politician and they never get back to me, I feel like they just don't care. So I do care. And I want to hear what you have to say, because when I go there, I represent you. I'm your voice. Tell me what you want. Give me your voice. That's the whole idea. Is the representative government is I'm there to represent you. So give me something to represent. I really just want to make them proud.
Right. And I'm sure that you welcome volunteers that would like to help you personally, like to hold signs or go door knocking and hang hangers and
everything. Yeah, please, you can get a hold of me. My phone number, email, text me. It's all right there on the website, the Facebook page. Any way you want to get involved, I would love to have your help. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, before we close, anything else that you would like to say to your constituents today?
I got most of it out, but it's really about not just the 81st district, but it's all about every citizen here in Arkansas, the little guy that feels they're not being heard, their voice isn't being heard, they're not being represented. Yes, my vote is for the 81st district, but it affects the entire state. I'm here for everybody, especially the 81st district. What are your concerns? What do you care about? Please let me know. Get a hold of me. Let's talk. Let's meet. Let's shake hands.
Okay, wonderful. Well, you heard it here first, Thursday morning. And again, a deeper dive today here on Arkansas First Report. A new race is heating up in District 81, and it's not just about replacing a seat, it's about restoring conservative conviction. Aaron Hansen brings bold energy, grassroots grit, and a deep love for his state we all call home. If you want a representative who won't back down, who will fight for lower taxes, defend life and your rights to a secure election, keep your eye on this race. Be sure to follow Aaron's campaign on social media, Aaron Hansen for State Representative, and visit his website, aaronforarkansas.com. Also, visit Tax Arkansas Responsibly on Facebook. If you like this program and want to help us, please go to our Facebook page and like it and follow us there at Arkansas First News. Go to our website, Arkansas First, and that is arkansas1stnews.com. Make sure to subscribe and follow all of our, all of our contributors. We are by the people, for the people. That's who we are. And then make sure that you stay up to date and contribute. Your contribution helps to bring this program to you every week. You can follow us on all your podcast stations. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, Ragnet Populace, the people rule. Have a good day.